Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this would be the Combat Series episode number 88 for you guys. Today, this would be an all-out boxing episode of the Combat Series this week. I'll be starting off the episode by kicking off my fight prediction for this weekend's fight in the sport of boxing with a highly anticipated rematch, an undisputed championship rematch between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. So, these two respective pound-for-pound fighters will be headlining the Riyadh, Saudi Arabia card this weekend, with Artur Beterbiev defending his undisputed light heavyweight titles against Dmitry Bivol in a highly anticipated rematch taking place in the sport of boxing. So, these are the following storylines that I have heading into this rematch. So, can these two fighters put together another classic performance? When these two respective fighters fought in the fall, Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, that was one hell of a fight for the ages. It was a classic chess match between the two respective fighters. It wasn't something that caught the eye of casual fans that like to see the knockouts, so they only tune in for the big stars. No, the first fight between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol were for people like me and a lot of you guys out there watching and listening, the diehard boxing fans that love classic chess matches between two top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the sport of boxing. Hell, top 5 depending on how you have your pound-for-pound rankings. That's how good the first fight between Beterbiev and Bivol was, with a controversial ending, but the first fight was a classic. We're going to see if these two respective fighters can live up to the hype and over-exceed the expectations that the two respective fighters had the first time that they fought each other. Now, will this fight end in controversial fashion? Like I just said in the first fight, it's debatable who you guys had winning the fight. In my opinion, I think the wrong fighter lost the fight. And I think Dmitry Bivol should have been the one that got his hand raised in the fall when these two respective fighters fought the first time. Instead, it was Artur Beterbiev that won the fight by a split decision. But if you go with the 3 judges that were there and had the best seat in the house watching ringside, I had Bivol winning the first fight because Dmitry Bivol landed more punches. He landed the cleaner punches, landed the jab more effectively, and had the better percentage in the power shots landed, which caught the eye of the judges of Dmitry Bivol for his sake winning the fight is because he was more active. But I feel like Dmitry Bivol, when you look at these stats, I don't understand how he lost the first time. So I feel like this time around we could see another close decision. I'll get to that later on in the prediction, but we're going to see if there's some controversial faction that if this fight ends in controversy like it did the first time. Now, final storyline is, will this outcome affect the landscape of the light heavyweight division? Because if Artur Beterbiev wins this time around, I think the chapter closes between himself and Dmitry Bivol. However, if that happens, Artur Beterbiev would be set to fight his mandatory, who is the interim WBC light heavyweight champion. That would be David Benavidez. So that would set up for a big fight in the second half of 2025. If Dmitry Bivol is successful in this rematch, I think we're going to head into a trilogy fight between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol that will happen in the second half of 2025. So there's a lot that's riding at stake in this light heavyweight division based on who walks out Saturday of Saudi Arabia with the undisputed light heavyweight title. So we're going to be seeing this. This is going to be something to follow, but this is the tale of the tape for this following fight. Now, starting with the challenger, Dmitry Bivol, he has 23 victories, 1 loss to his resume. He has 12 victories come away of knockout. He's a top 10 pound-for-pound star in the sport of boxing. Stands at 6 foot tall and has a reach of 72 inches. Then I look at the champion, Artur Beterbiev. Artur Beterbiev is 21-0, 20 victories come away of knockout. Currently, the reigning defending undisputed light heavyweight champion stands at 5'11" and has a reach of 73 inches. So the height goes in favor of the challenger Bivol, but the reach goes in favor of the champion Beterbiev. So we're going to see how that plays out in the rematch between these two respective fighters. Now, these are the following game plans that I have for these respective fighters to follow if they want to walk out with as the undisputed champion in the light heavyweight division. Starting off with the champion, Artur Beterbiev. Now, I think Artur Beterbiev's got to create pressure and split the guard. Now, for those that don't know how to split the guard in boxing, it's if I'm in a defensive stance and you split through that with sliding through the guard. And Artur Beterbiev did that a lot in the first fight against Dmitry Bivol. And he did that, splitting the guard well, landing the jab and the body shots. The body shots actually was something that I saw affected Dmitry Bivol. He didn't really show it much. But if you saw the impact that Artur Beterbiev had landing the body shots of Dmitry Bivol, as the fight went on, it started to slow him down. You could see him grimacing in pain from the shots because we know how effective Artur Beterbiev is as a power puncher. Has a 95% KO finish ratio. So I feel like with him doing that, splitting the guard, using the jab, and landing the body shots, that's going to make Dmitry Bivol box off his back foot, which that's something you want because most of the time, Dmitry Bivol loves to fight coming forward and put the pressure on his opponent. So if he could do that again like he did in the first fight, he could have a good chance of winning this rematch. Now, like I just said, Artur Beterbiev's got to target the body and slow him down, and that could possibly lead to Artur Beterbiev scoring a knockdown, something he didn't do in the first fight, because as you guys know, the body is what helps you move around. You need to move around in lateral movements in the boxing ring. You can't just stay still like a tree in the ring and expect to win fights. You got to move around, but if your body is getting targeted several times, you're not going to be able to move around, and you're going to be moving gingerly in the boxing ring. So if he could do that and the perfect liver shot, everybody knows that follows the sport, you get hit in the liver, that one liver shot might turn out the lights for the night. Your head might want to go, but your body's going to tell you stay down. If one liver shot lands, if Artur Beterbiev can land that perfect liver shot, he could possibly be the first person to ever knock down Dmitry Bivol in a boxing ring. So I think he should do that. And last but not least, establish the power. Like I just said, Artur Beterbiev has finished every single opponent that he's been in the boxing ring with, except Dmitry Bivol. So everybody has fallen victim to his KO power. And he has nearly a flawless KO record and stood the test of time in the sport of boxing as a true boxing champion that had a perfect KO percentage until he fought Dmitry Bivol. So I think at times in the later rounds, as the fight picked up in the second half of the fight, you saw that Dmitry Bivol started to respect Artur Beterbiev's power. And especially in the championship rounds, round 9 through 12, you definitely saw Dmitry Bivol start to respect the power more as he faded away in the championship rounds, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I think if Artur Beterbiev can establish the power, make Dmitry Bivol respected early, and lead with the overhand right, he has a good chance of retaining his undisputed light heavyweight titles. Now let's go to the challenger, Dmitry Bivol. I think Dmitry Bivol's got to win the counter-punching battle. Now, most of the fight is probably going to be fought in the pocket like it was the first time. There really wasn't time. I mean, yes, of course, they're going to find themselves fighting off the back foot, but most of the time throughout the duration of the 12 rounds, they were in the pocket, slugging it out, going back and forth. That's why it was a classic chess match, the first fight. But I feel like if Dmitry Bivol is going to fight in the pocket, he's going to have to win the counter-punching battle. And Dmitry Bivol has to win the counter-punching battle and control the pace of the fight if you're going to fight in the pocket, fight in the inside against Artur Beterbiev for this fight. And if he could do that, control the pace of the offense, not control the pace of the offense, but control the pace of the fight, and lead with the stiff jab. Dmitry Bivol has one of the best jabs in the sport today. You line him up with being in the conversation for having one of the best jabs with himself, Shakur Stevenson, and several others. I think if he does that, he has a good chance of winning this fight. Now, next, I think Dmitry Bivol's going to have to fight in different angles. Now, he's going to have to use his footwork, fight in different angles, move around in the boxing ring. You can't let Artur Beterbiev walk you down the entire fight, because if that happens, I feel like it could lead to Dmitry Bivol leading up to being in a world of trouble. And at times where Dmitry Bivol fought off the back foot in the first fight, he let Artur Beterbiev walk him down and got pinned up on the ropes, that's something that Artur Beterbiev likes to do to his opponents, because once you have your opponent's back pinned on the ropes, you go upstairs, downstairs, and land your combinations, let the hands fly. That is something that Dmitry Bivol does not want to do in this rematch. Did not want to spend too much time on the ropes like you're Muhammad Ali, because it could lead you to a world of trouble, possibly get hurt or get sent to the canvas for a knockdown, or possibly get knocked out. So I think he's got to be able to move around effectively, use his footwork to fight in different angles and move around in different lateral movements. And last but not least, Dmitry Bivol cannot fade away in the championship rounds. Now, like I just said in the beginning of the segment a few moments ago, there were times in that fight where a lot of people gave it to Artur Beterbiev, that if you scored it at home watching, or the judges, the 2 out of 3 judges gave it to Artur Beterbiev, because in the championship rounds, you got to say that Artur Beterbiev won through rounds 10 through 12, and he was the more active fighter. I think somebody in Dmitry Bivol's corner that night told him, "You're okay. You're gonna win the fight. Just cruise to the finish and not get hurt." And you got the fight in the bag. You can't do that all the time in the sport of boxing, because if it goes to the judges' scorecards in a really close fight like it was in the first fight, that could lead you to being in a world of danger and possibly getting robbed like you did the first time. So he's got to be more active in the championship rounds. Can't afford to make the mistakes, and he has to be more aggressive in the championship rounds to make the judges believe that he won the fight. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Dmitry Bivol to defeat Artur Beterbiev by split decision, become the new undisputed light heavyweight champion in the sport of boxing. Now, I got to tell you guys, I think this is going to be a really close fight. I think it's going to be another classic chess match between Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. I think it's going to come down to judges' scorecards once again, and I think this time around, with it being a split decision, it's going to go in the favor of Dmitry Bivol instead of the favor of Artur Beterbiev. That's going to set up a trilogy for later on in 2025. But I think if Dmitry Bivol could clean up on the small mistakes that he had in the first fight, he's got to be more active in the championship rounds. I think that's why the judges swayed to Artur Beterbiev for winning this fight, because he won the championship rounds of 10, 11, and 12. And Dmitry Bivol took his foot off the gas pedal. He wasn't as aggressive in the championship rounds. He will not do that this time. I think he's going to be more aggressive. The fight is going to be exchanged in the pocket, fighting in the inside. I think Dmitry Bivol is going to win the counter-punching battle. I think he's going to lead with that stiff jab, has one of the best jabs in the sport of boxing today. I also think that Dmitry Bivol is going to use his boxing IQ. And I think he's also going to win the counter-punching battle, bait Artur Beterbiev to making the mistakes, and win the counter-punching battle to help his case of winning a close fight and a split decision victory, and favor Dmitry Bivol to become the new undisputed light heavyweight champion against Artur Beterbiev. I think the series is going to be 1-1, and I think we're going to see a trilogy at some point in 2025 at this light heavyweight division. But that is my Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev fight prediction.